it's recording. Hello and welcome to the first episode of Anything But the Clothes. My name is Rosie Bossett. I'm the creator of this podcast, which is an extension of my digital magazine called Why the Fuck Is She Wearing That? Firstly, I want to clarify what this is, what it's about, and why I've decided to start the magazine and the podcast. So the theme of the magazine as a whole is fashion as a concept, its place in society, fashion anthropology, so really just anything beyond the clothes. So this particular platform, the podcast, is where I want to tackle some more complex ideas and themes that are best suited to conversation rather than text. So, you can have a bit of back and forth and it doesn't have to be so rigid. I will explore fashion as a concept through theories such as fashion anthropology, the psychology of fashion, and the history of style. For me, this is such an obvious subject, but seems really overlooked. So for this episode, I will attempt to tackle fashion anthropology with my guest Kailia Balby. I can't fucking record today. I'll crop that bit out.
Okay.
Hi Kailia.
Hi there. So me and Rosie met over Instagram, and I changed my name on Instagram to anthropologist because my mom gave me this title basically because I realized that what my passion is and what I'm pursuing is studying the existentialism of fashion and where it comes from, not just the trends and why we are wearing what we're wearing. So fashion anthropology worked perfect for me. And Rosie happened to find me through Instagram through that title, and serendipitously, here we are.
Yeah, so I just typed that in.
We're just going to talk about fashion.
Yeah, basically. It was really good to actually see because, as we've been saying, it's something that's so, I feel like it's kind of overlooked. I haven't really seen much about fashion anthropology, so I just thought, okay, I'm just going to type it into Instagram and see what comes up, and your account came up, which was great.
Yeah, I didn't really know if people were going to know what it meant, because I kind of am still figuring out what it means.
Yes, no,
because
me too.
There's so little on it.
Yeah, so that was the thing, that's what I was just going to say about the definition. When I was looking for an actual definition of it to actually introduce the podcast, we both couldn't find a dictionary definition. There was one from it was somebody defining the lecture they was giving, not an actual definition. Just for the people listening, sorry, it was fashion anthropology. Sorry?
Yeah. It was Denise Green.
Yeah, that was it, Denise Green, thank you.
Yeah, it's okay.
And it was fashion anthropology is the study of how human cultures are produced, performed and transformed through appearance, dress and fashion systems. That was the definition of her thing.
How do you feel about that definition? Do you think that it encompasses everything that we're trying to talk about?
Yes, it does, but then I also feel like there is really more to it.
Absolutely.
How about you?
Yeah, I would agree because it is about human culture and how fashion has transformed us and we have transformed fashion. But I do think that a lot of the time it's hard to think about fashion as more than what is just the shallow idea of fashion.
Definitely.
And I think what fashion anthropology does is make it a rich niche versus just models and runway and that.
Yeah, because there is this idea that there is this idea from most people that fashion is, of course it is the clothes and it is runway and it is Vogue magazine and that kind of thing, but obviously there's way more to it because, as we were saying, there is no way really that you can escape it. It's everybody wears clothes, whether they choose to pick, whether they choose to really make an effort with them, whether they're actually looking at the style, the appearance of the clothes, or just to wear without thinking, just purely for the purpose. Everyone, you can't really escape it. So there you have to look at them more than just fashion as we know it.
Right, exactly. It goes past trends, and it goes past just putting on clothing. Because obviously there's a spectrum, like anything else. There are people who get up and just put on clothing because that is a social norm. And then there are people who dress with purpose. There are people who dress with expression. There are people who dress without expression, and they have no choice. So there's this whole kind of spectrum. And I think that by talking about something like fashion anthropology, we're taking it out of, it's just clothes, you just put it on.
Yeah.
Or
definitely.
the other side of, you pay $20,000 for a dress because the designer made it.
No, but then there's even like the thing I think that goes beyond that is like there's you might pay $20,000 for a dress because the designer made it, but are you only paying for that because the designer made it, or would you buy that if someone that you didn't know that wasn't a designer made this dress?
And that's part of it too.
Yeah.
It's part of the culture of it.
Yeah, exactly. And as we're saying this, I'm just remembering from the book Fashion as a Philosophy by Lars Spersden, really to show give an example of just how much of a phenomenon it is. He states the need to dress is one of the most influential phenomena in Western civilization since the Renaissance. And, well, that just says it all, really.
No, it absolutely does. And I'm just like, I'm taking that in because it's like, I know we, pulled certain quotes and we had ideas of this, but I feel like I'm hearing this for the first time.
Yeah, it feels very, very different to how I imagined. But I think that is the thing with fashion anthropology, because it's not been refined really at all. And I feel like it's one of those subjects that is quite hard to refine.
Right. And he's talking about the Renaissance, which was a rebirth.
Exactly.
Of so much. And so if we talk about fashion and its greater importance, let's say.
Yeah.
We are talking about how fashion is a mirror, like, Shakespeare says, hold a mirror up to nature. Yeah. And you you see what you need to see, but you also see what you maybe haven't thought of seeing, or thought was a reflection.
Yeah.
So if you break down fashion as a mirror into art movements, technological innovation, time period and the spirit of that period, pop culture, economic valleys, political rebellion. It's all of it.
Yeah.
It's repression, oppression, expression. It's all these things that are nonverbal communication.
Yeah, because you were saying before about the heels in regards to the economy.
Yeah.
And that just I feel like that kind of captures fashion anthropology, looking at clothes from that perspective.
Yeah, and how it's so correlated. Because, when we think about, I think about history, and it's one of my favorite things about talking about the actual anthropology of fashion. Because I really started my focus and love when I started learning more about the 1920s.
Okay.
And how it was so big and bombastic